As I look upon my life, there's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dreams. As I look upon my life, there's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dream.
Good morning, everybody. Yay, it's a beautiful summer's morning. It's a Thursday morning. Yay, men. And it's a very, very hot morning.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So, we in summer. In South Africa. So it is so nice to be alive on the summer's day. So have a tenacious Thursday, guys. Never look back, because you know what? The past is like stinking water, so don't look back to the past.
So true, eh?
Just take the things that you know you could learn something from the past. But nevertheless, I have beautiful people in the house here with me this morning. And so, yay, we're going to give our ladies the opportunity to say hi to you, right? But before we do that, if you can take out your mirror, right? Okay. And let us hear from you, the person looking back at you, right?
Yeah.
What is she going to do, or he's going to do on Christmas?
Oh, wow.
For the holidays.
Girl,
It's holiday
yes,
seasons, guys. It's holidays. So, what are you going to do for the holidays? That person looking back at you, what is that person going to do, right? And so, also, I'm going to ask before we go to the mirror, right, guys? So, these ladies are going to actually just say hi to you, and then I'm going to ask my guest. Do I have a beautiful guest in the house? Remember, we are talking this morning on It's All Possible. So we have Cindy that's going to actually give her testimony, how the Lord carried her through, from where she was and where she's at this moment.
Awesome.
So I really pray and trust that the Lord will really speak to you who's listening to this program. And actually, nothing is impossible with God.
Yes.
All things are possible if you believe.
Yes.
Right? That's the
Very
that's
important.
the thing.
If you believe.
Yes. I'm going to ask you guys to say hello to the people.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Do I have to introduce myself? I'm Violet, and not a stranger to the show. For me, it's Grateful Thursday.
Yes.
You know, Joan said tenacious, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tenacious Thursday.
So I'm just greeting you with a grateful heart this morning, because, every time we are reminded of how fragile life is.
Yes.
Like last night, I heard a colleague of mine passed away, an ex-colleague, and, going to a funeral again this Saturday. And then one just realizes life is short, guys. We need to enjoy life.
Absolutely.
So join us this morning, right? Sit, have your coffee, your tea, your water, boiling water with lemon, whatever you want to, take it out, because we have a beautiful lady in the studio. I just want you to say to know that I think you are just an immaculate person. When I met you the first time, okay, now now there's a story behind, but I think that's the conception that we have for most people, is that the outward appearance is flawless, and so you just take it for granted that the person is whole and complete and perfect.
Yes.
So join us as we listen this morning to an awesome testimony.
Yes, Gail.
And welcome, girl.
Thank you so much, Pastor Violet. Thank you, Pastor Joan, for affording me this opportunity to be part of the Inside Show this morning. As Pastor Joan had said, it's Tenacious Thursday. Pastor Violet is saying she's grateful for today, and I woke up with that this is the day that the Lord has made.
Yes,
Let us
amen.
rejoice and be
Amen,
glad in it.
amen.
Today is a day filled with many opportunities and
Yes.
blessings.
Oh, yes.
So we just need to tap into it and own it and just see how God blows our mind today.
Yes.
Amen. Wonderful, guys. Wonderful. So I don't know what Thursday it is for you. So yeah, you fill in the blanks
Yes.
spots, right?
Yes.
You fill in the dot. Oh, Thursday, right? So yeah, a grateful Thursday and a
Yes.
tenacious Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what it is, beloved. So we are speaking. It's all possible. Right? You are on the Inside Show with none other than Talk With Joan Thursdays. And yay, man, if you have that mirror out, let that girl or that guy speak to you. So tell us a little bit about what are you going to do for Christmas? For the holidays, guys. For the holidays. You know, in the ministry, there's no holidays.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you must think of who's gonna be here, who's gonna minister,
Who's
gonna be there for the people.
Yes.
So now, yeah.
So what are you going to do then?
Me?
Just chill? Just stay here?
No. I'm gonna go away for a week.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Everybody needs
Yeah,
a break,
break.
right?
I need a break. Yeah. One of these days I'll run away. Don't worry.
For good.
Yeah.
Ek gaan jou terughou. Yeah, no. For me, Joan, I'm fortunate in the sense that this year, Christmas, I'm going to be with my children and
Ay
grandchildren.
man,
man,
dis so
that is
lekker man.
amazing.
Jy moet my net tas gesit het,
I
weet jy.
know, man. And, you know, it was 1 year when there was a pastor and his wife, I can't remember their surnames. But he spoke it over me, so to speak, that
Yes.
day when he heard how sad I was this time of the year. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Because you know what? It is you like to be around family.
Yes.
That's
I
what it
think
is.
Christmas
honestly.
is a time
it's a
for
family.
family.
It's a family.
And so we
season.
always, my husband and I, gate crashing or we go to his children, you know. And so for me this year, after 6 years, I'll be with all three my children and grandchildren.
nice,
That
So
is
I'm so
amazing.
excited for this December holidays. I'm very excited, my friend.
Wonderful.
It's going to be
wonderful.
cold, snowing, but indoors, but just to have,
Yeah,
be
just to
close
be with them.
Just to be with them. I've already psyched myself up. And you know, looking in the mirror, ek is so moeg ook van so bly in die mirror. Want like in the morning, I talk to myself all the time. I'm in my head all the time. I'm like,
It's very good. It's a good thing.
It is.
Yes.
It's a good thing.
You know, but sometimes we are too much in our
Own heads,
in our own heads. Don't you
spaces,
think?
yeah.
I think so. For me.
You think so?
Yeah.
It's good to speak to yourself.
Yes.
No, it's
It
very
is.
good.
It's very
because that's introspection for me.
Absolutely.
That is actually looking at, oh, okay, I can
Yeah.
work on this.
Yes.
Okay, this is happening at the moment. So, what is the outcome?
Yes.
What-
Yeah. How do I
because
navigate
How do
it?
how am I going to work through
Yes.
this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes, Pastor.
And I think that's to me.
Yeah.
That's why I love the mirror.
Right.
That's why when I'm down, guys, this is my go-to. This thing, ne?
That's true.
This thing. Hey, it can speak to you.
It can.
Yeah,
It can.
it can.
And you know, this
speak to
morning,
you.
one of the other things that I also realized is when I heard a talk, you know, on the television, is that what was Christians. So we need to repent daily as well.
Yes.
You said it's introspection. So introspection also means we need to look into ourselves.
It's so important.
You know, we're so keen to or quick to look to others.
Than
But when do
ourselves.
we look into ourselves? Where did I go wrong, Lord? Where did I sin?
What part did I play in this?
Absolutely. You're right, Cindy.
Yes,
You're
Pastor
right.
Violet.
Okay, so what
Yeah.
you gonna do, Sin?
Cent?
So for me, Pastor Violet and Pastor Joan, I think we were just chatting about it over the weekend and
Yeah.
we were like, what are we going to do? I think I'm also big on spending it with family.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we spend it with our loved ones, those that are edified when we are in each other's company. So we're hoping to also get a few days away, but as you know, this time of the year, it's really crazy.
Yeah,
so
it
we are
is.
looking to to go away for a few days, nothing
Yeah.
overseas, but something
Yeah.
local. But I suppose just Christmas Day, spending it with our loved ones,
Yeah.
over a good meal, coming to church, and that's what we envisaging for this December.
That's
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
lekker.
Yes.
Because what do you think if you're gonna be there now, you must gonna be the cook, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna set that table so lekker.
I'm already
Don't worry,
getting my
guys.
spices
I'm
and
getting you
everything
ready.
ready.
I'm getting you ready because you know what? Next week we're gonna actually have this thing in Kineko, because next week, guys, is our last. This is our last. Next week is our last. Last
Yes.
for the year for
Right.
2024.
Yes. Yeah.
No, because it's the end of
November. Yeah. This
And,
is also your birthday month, girl.
Yay! Yeah, man.
Mine was 2
You
weeks
need to-
ago.
It's my birthday.
2 weeks-
It's
you-
I was
my
the 2nd of
You're
birthday.
November.
November too?
Yes, Pastor John.
There's something about November
Really?
I'm
women.
the 2nd of November.
Honestly. Oh,
Powerful
lekker,
ladies,
man.
eh?
Nice,
Yes.
nice.
Powerful. I
Nice.
need to tell you,
Tenacious
ladies,
woman. Yeah, very
Resilient.
true.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, very resilient.
Yeah.
Very. So that is actually, so yeah, next week Wednesday is my birthday. Ja, en ek tel weer die jare nie, nee. Ja, is grace.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Looking
So,
younger by the
so
day.
that is what it is. But
Yeah.
nevertheless,
Aging
guys, come I
gracefully.
tell you, no?
Yeah.
It's our last thingy show for the year next week, because the following week it's December.
Yeah.
Oh, next week I think it's the 28th.
Yes, the 20,
So the 28th,
is
the
your last,
28th is our last
Yes.
show
Yes,
on
yes.
Talk With Joan. So December, it's a little bit of a break, right?
Yeah.
So you can actually do something this time for our faithful viewers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can do something at this time. I know you're going to miss me, don't worry. I'm still young.
Yeah. Yes.
Ja, but ja, ons het die speels is uit.
Ja.
Ons het met hulle gepraat, reg?
Yep.
En nou wil ons graag met Cindy praat. Ons gaan we're actually going to talk to Cindy a little bit about her testimony.
Yes.
So who is Cindy? Who's Cindy-Lee Markham?
Sure. I read your question yesterday, and who is Cindy? I'll start by saying I'm a 44-year-old mother to a 19-year-old son. I'm married, and I obtained my degree in October this year. I graduated. So that's who I am. I'm somebody who is definitely resilient. I see myself as a phoenix, someone that rises from the ashes, just based off. I mean, to your point, Pastor Violet, where you say people look at Cindy and they look at her holistically and they think, sure, this lady's, put together, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
But, if you don't know who I am, you don't know my story,
That's
you'd
right.
be amazed to
Right.
see me, and then you're like, did that really happen? And you're still
Yes.
standing.
Yes.
So that's who I am. I think I'm somebody that is able to push through. I don't give up easily. I'm a fighter. And
That's why you're still here.
that's why I'm still here. So I'm a fighter. I also love God immensely. I'm very particular on who I let into my circle, especially friends-wise. And I think from our couples event that we had on the 8th of November, I was saying to Glenn that I know it's maybe not a good thing, but I think I live my life for my son and for Glenn, I do everything centered around them, and I'm like, no. I need to do something that's going to talk to Cindy for a bit, find a hobby that I like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's who I am. I'm not someone that gives up easily,
Yeah.
and I can push through. So that's who I am, Cindy.
That's Cindy in a nutshell for
Yes,
you.
yes.
Yeah.
So Cindy went through certain challenges in her life. So
Yeah.
and she have a very, very profound testimony. So I actually would like to ask you, and I know sometimes it's difficult, to go back and actually speak about all these things that you went through. But those things don't have to actually,
It doesn't shape
yeah.
who you are today.
Yeah, today is the thing that actually counts.
Yes.
Today is actually, the moments that you actually take
Yes.
as significant. These are the times that
Yes.
I'm living in, and this is where I'm heading to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But Cindy went through a lot of challenges
Yeah.
in life.
Yes.
So I want you to take us a little bit from the beginning.
Okay.
Because I don't know much, but what you shared, I think at one of the leaders thing it is, where you lost your brother and your
Husband.
your ex-husband
In a car accident.
in a
yes.
car accident.
So I think we'll start from there. I was 24 when I got married at the very first time, and looking back, let's say 17 years later, because this is what happened to me 17 years ago. At the tender age of 26, I became a widow. I went to bed married and woke up a widow, not knowing that my life would have done a 360-degree turn in such a short space of time, because, I mean, they left home at 9, and by midnight they had passed on, and I was unaware of that.
Goodness me.
So in that journey, at the age of 26, I had an 18-month-old baby at the time. Reese was only 18 months old.
Goodness.
So he was 18 months old, and I remember clearly that day, I was literally sick to my stomach, like where you can't put water to your lips, you can't put anything to your food, because it felt like I was having this out-of-body experience that, listen, this cannot be happening to me. But be that as it may, I remember clearly sitting in the yard, and everybody was obviously coming to our home at the time. And he's still alive, Horace McBride. He married myself and Cyril at the time when we did get married. And I sat there, and he was broken. He was broken. He was crying, and I just sat there, looked at everybody, and I think I was more in shock than
she
anything.
was shocked, yeah.
I didn't cry, and I looked at him, and I just said to him, I don't know how am I going to do this. Like, I'm looking into the future, and I'm like, Lord, how and when? I'm only 26. What am I going to do with Reese? How am I going to do this? But long story short, what that came, not just losing a brother that was only 20 at the time. Sorry, he was 20 and Cyril was 32.
Your brother was 20.
So I come from a home where we're 3 kids. I'm the middle kid, so I'm the only girl. I have an older brother, and then my brother that was 20 was the one that passed away in the same car accident with Cyril. And so obviously I went through the death in itself, and my husband at the time was much older than me, when I say about 7 years older, and I lived in a property with him, and I couldn't afford it. So I put the house on the market, not thinking anything. Like, first and foremost, I was very scared after they died. I didn't sleep in our own home. I went back home to my parents. Yes, I literally didn't. I literally left the house as is, and I went to my parents in Eldorado Park. And I stayed with my parents for almost 2 years. But for the first 6 months of after their death, I slept in my parents' bed with them, because I was.
Shame.
Yeah, that's how it affected me. But nonetheless, so I had the house on the market, and the bank called and said, Cindy, you need to take the house off the market. I don't understand what's going on. And they said, no, we need to see this lawyer. And I seen the lawyer out in Kempton Park, and he just said to me, do I understand why I'm here? I'm like, no, I don't. And then he just said to me, no, your husband estate has been declared insolvent, and do you know what that means? He explained, long story short, I then opted to choose to declare myself insolvent, because I wouldn't have had the money to pay all the debt off that he had incurred. And because we were married in a community of property,
Yes.
Sure.
it affected me. But with that being said, they auctioned our house, they repossessed my car at work. I had to find my way, and I went back home to my parents, and I'm going to be brutally honest, I was very upset with God, like, Lord, I get married to this man,
imagine.
I have this baby, and now you're leaving me with all this. I couldn't get answers from a dead person. I couldn't go to a grave and say,
That's
but now why,
correct,
you know? But fast forward, I think I only cried 18 months later when...
Wow.
Yes, Pastor Joan. I didn't cry. I didn't. 18 months later, I remember my ex-father-in-law came home and gave me a letter. Before that, I was sick. So I got a headache, and they thought it was meningitis. And I'm like, no, it's not, man. They gave me medication. I went home. And the following morning, I remember not being able to get up because I was vomiting that much. And then eventually went to Mole Park, and I was there for about 3 weeks. And I think the doctor that had seen me was asking a lot of questions. And I think I was just like a robot. I'm like, this is it. And he said, say that again. And I'm like, anyway, they admitted me, only to find that I have like a valve in my heart that doesn't close properly, long story short. And then the following day, I remember the guy coming in a wheelchair saying to me, no, you need to see this other doctor. I'm like, I'm not getting off this bed. That's how stubborn I was. And eventually he came to me, and I cannot tell you guys what that man said to me, but that's when the penny dropped, that they died. And that's the first time I cried. To now realizing
And that was how long after?
18 months.
18 months. So you were in denial or shock? Or?
I think it was
I
more
think it was shock.
If
Was a
anything,
shock.
it was shock because you must understand, Pastor Violet, like they died.
Yeah.
So it's 2 people dying. I have an 18-month-old son, and it's just so many things. Is like
Yes.
it's so many.
It's too much.
It's too much.
Yes.
And
deal
how
with.
do you separate grieving for your brother and grieving for your husband at the
husband.
same time? Yeah.
And with that, in that whole grieving, in this whole 18-month process, I mean, just thinking like going and getting drawing money from the ATM, they swallowed my card. Our account was frozen. And I couldn't understand. And then I went to the bank and they're like, no, show me you the executor of this state and we'll give you the money. Long story short, that never happened. And so yes, I was declared insolvent for 10 years of my life, like literally. It took the bank 10 years to wind up their estate. So it was 10 years of insolvency where I couldn't do anything for myself. But it's all possible because of God. I mean, if I just look at just in that 10 years, how the hand of God was there. I moved home to my parents for almost 2 years, and I decided, you know what, I need to move out. So my father was working, and he said to me, okay, you'll stay on surety. For me, I'm going to rent a townhouse. And we went looking, and I remember the lady worked for Remax, and it was a very new complex that was built. And I said to the lady, you know what, I'm looking for a 2-bedroom townhouse. This is the story. She's like, okay, we look. And then she says to me, I have an apartment that I haven't used. I just bought it. Would you be interested? I said, if it fits the budget, yes, it would. I would be. And she said, sure, let's look. And at that time in 2009, if I look at what I paid for the rent, including water and lights, was 4,000 Rand for a ground floor unit next to Eagle Canyon.
Okay.
Oh, no way.
So that for me is God, right? And then we
Yes.
fast track again, and then I stayed there for a good couple of years. And then in 2012, I decided to move, not knowing I was going to meet Glenn. And then again, I rented from this lady, and I moved closer to Reese's school because he went to school in Northcliffe. And I told the lady I'm wanting to give notice, and then I applied to stay at another property, also brand new. And I said to the guy, listen, you know, if you're going to do all these credit checks, I'm going to tell you up front. I've been declared insolvent. My father's willing to stay in surety, but I'm looking to move. And here's a reference from my previous, the person I rented from. And he's like, okay, no problem. Sign here. You can move in 1
Favor.
February. The favor of God, right? And not knowing that I'd meet Glenn. And in all of that, I meet Glenn. We meet each other in 2012, and we get married in 2013.
How did you all meet?
So, according to Glenn, and he always says this, he's always liked me for a very long time. Even when I was married, he said to the one guy, I'm going to marry this woman. And he's like, and the friend looks at him and says, but how are you going to marry her? She's married.
Yes,
And he says to me, that day I was carrying Reese, he was still a baby. So this was like in 2006, and in 2007, Cyril dies. And I didn't think I would ever get married again because there was just so many things that was going on, having to deal with an insolvent estate, having to deal with so many things that distracted me from actually dealing with my own emotions.
Was the estate insolvent? I'm asking because a lot of people will
Want to know?
will want to know because of the
Debt. So in essence, what an insolvent estate means is your liabilities exceeds your assets. So what you owe versus what you have was more. And he didn't have life cover. We never had life cover. So everything that I had practically owned at the time, the bank repossessed. I stood in my yard when they auctioned our home. I was at work working, and they came to fetch my car. Pastor Joan, I had to find my way home. So everything that we owned at that time was practically taken away, and I had no choice in the matter. But yes, I wasn't scared, and I wasn't embarrassed to go back home to my parents. None of that crossed my mind. It was just, sure, this is what's happening to me. It is what it is. And I think I've shared briefly with you, Pastor Violet, that I knew a few months before his death that he was going to die. I actually seen visions of how I'd be fetching Reese from school. And that particular day when they died, this is exactly how it had unfolded.
But then one would say you would be prepared. But you
No,
still
you
weren't.
can't. No.
I
Right.
wasn't.
Because to you, it's just a dream. It's
Yeah.
just
And even like, you know, when I seen these visions, I was like, this isn't. And I brushed it off, and only on that day when they passed away,
Yeah.
and I fetched Reese at the creche, and then I'm like, oh, but this is the same vision that I had, where I was walking from the class down to the gate where we were living to go home after picking him up, and this was the vision I had.
Yeah.
After, you know, before he had passed, and that's exactly what had transpired that day, the 19th of July, 2007. And I'll say for free, Pastor Violet and Pastor Joan, it wasn't easy, you know. And I'll talk even with being married to Glenn. In the first 2 years of our marriage, I think it was very hard for us because I needed to let go and
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
that Glenn and Cyril are two different
Yes,
individuals.
that's right.
Yes.
So, and also the integration of a Reese
That's
and a Glenn.
correct, yes.
Because remember, I'm the one that
Yeah.
was married,
Yeah.
the widow with the child.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And we had to find our rhythm as a family. And then we fast tracked to 2017. And
Because obviously you're so protective now and overprotective.
I'm the
about your
helicopter.
son.
I'm the helicopter
You
mother.
understand? And now you came in here, so
Yes.
you can't say anything.
But if anything, Pastor Joan, like, I think I'm a very fair mother. I'm strict, and Glenn will tell you this. I'm strict. And just some history. So when I married Cyril had a kid. And that child lived with us. So he had a child out of wedlock. So I even shared at the couples retreat that, yes, you know, I lived both sides of the fence. So I lived on the side of the fence where I became a mother, even though I wasn't a mother yet. In my case, Glenn
Okay.
became the dad without being a dad.
Right.
In terms of becoming the
That's
father
right,
for Reese. And in that time, married to Cyril, there was a lot of things that I had to learn and navigate, which I now have implemented in our own marriage.
Yeah.
You know, saying like, Reese, that's dad. You know, and I always say to Glenn, and he laughs, I say, understand one thing. Cyril is not Jesus. He's not going to resurrect himself from the
Yeah,
dead.
absolutely.
Yes.
So you got to be the dad.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And you
yes.
can't be the dad just for the good
That's
things.
right.
You've got to
For
discipline
the
him.
bad, yeah.
That
So-
is so important.
And
what
that's
you're
being
saying.
a dad.
That's being a dad, right,
Yeah.
Pastor John? And I'm
Yeah.
saying to him, my friend, you can't be a dad just for the good things.
Yes.
If Reese steps out of line,
Yeah.
you are his father.
That's right.
Yes.
It's
That's
not just
right.
my responsibility. And I think what makes me different, or our marriage different, or our home different, is because Reese knows he can't play us up against each
right.
other.
Awesome.
Because I put my
Wonderful.
foot down. Like,
Oh wow, that I love. That I
yes.
love because you don't find that
Yes.
in the majority of second marriages.
Yes.
You don't find that the wife stands with the husband.
Yes.
Even in a dispute at home, you know, and children knows how to play you off.
Children are born with a PhD degree
Very
in
so.
psychology.
No,
Pastor
that's,
John.
that's a fact.
That's a
of life.
fact.
I want to actually salute you on that one.
No, true.
Because second marriages,
Yes.
guys, for those who are listening, it's not easy.
not
Single
easy.
ladies, widows, it's not
It's not
easy. When you
easy.
get into a situation, a marriage where there's baggage from this side, from both sides,
I mean-
or just one side.
I mean, Pastor Violet, baggage is in many forms, shapes, and
Oh,
sizes,
definitely.
right? So when I met Glenn, I met him, and we chatted back in 2009, and
Yeah.
he visited once by my mother's house, and that was it. And then in 2012, we met again. And I was at the optometrist bending Reese's spectacles, and he was like, oh, how are you, la, 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 and, oh, when can I visit? I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, dude, I live on my own. My house is off limits, but I'm by my mother tomorrow. So if you want to, you can pop in, I'm there. And he wanted to visit at home, and I was very strict. I'm like, sorry, like, I don't know where this is going. I don't want to be I'm not
Yeah,
shopping for a
that's
father for
right.
my
Yes,
son, so I'm not going to
Yeah.
confuse him, so
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
But if you listen to our love story, Pastor Violet and Pastor Joan, we met on the 18th of January at my mother's house, and he came to sit, and I'm a very principled and disciplined individual. So everything is time. Reese must have this. Routine is very important to me.
Is
and-
this a November thing?
I think so too, Pastor. You're like, everything must have its place, and I'm that sort of
Sonia
person.
always say, when what Jade and myself, then she
Yes.
says, you can see you are both in November.
Right.
This is November thing, man.
It's a November thing. I think so too.
Because we like that.
This.
Yeah.
And for me, there's no gray or
But it's a good thing
no black.
too, eh?
It's
not
black
a
and
bad
white.
thing.
No
Yeah.
gray area. So it's either we in or we out. You can't be fence sitting. That's just my
Okay.
my character. And we met on the 18th, and then you wanted to visit. So I'm like, listen, I need to first speak to Reese because, I need to understand where Reese is at this, And I said to him, Boyki,
And how old was Reese?
Reese
then?
was 6 at the time, Pastor Joan.
Oh.
You were 6. And I chatted to him.
So Glenn is actually the
Only daddy knows.
daddy knows.
And that's why I say to him so ever often,
Wow.
my son calls him dad. When we were getting married or preparing for the wedding, and I think we were dating and it became official, and Glenn says, so Reese says to him, can I call you dad?
Oh, no, give me.
Yes. And we met, and then Reese had a school function. I'll tell you, for free, children are demons. Some children are just rotten, and they teased him because he never had a dad. And when I met him, he was like, are you coming to my fun day? So I can also tell my friends I have a dad.
Wow.
That was Reese. So Glenn and Reese have an amazing relationship.
Yeah.
And I think I've got to remind Glenn all the time, you're the only dad. So you gotta toe in the line.
right,
You know,
yeah.
you can't be like, I
Yeah,
can't.
that's right.
Because I've given you,
Yeah.
I'm not that
Yeah.
mother that scoops
Yeah.
Reese's nonsense
Yeah.
under the
Yeah.
table and no. So that's us. And then in 2017, I was sick. I was diagnosed with depression. I was in hospital for a month at a wellness clinic, and it was hard. It was very hard because that was the first time I actually got to deal with many things, Pastor Joan. Not just the death of my brother and them. It's just many things that had led up to that point in time in 2017. So I was in hospital. I remember I was admitted before Mother's Day, and it was not a nice time because I was going through the notions. It was very hard on my family when I
Because now you have to deal with yourself.
yes, and when I say hard on my family, it was more hard on Reese and Glenn because they were the direct people
Yeah, that's
that was
right,
affected
yeah.
by
That
me.
always happens, yeah.
And yes, I went through the notions and I said, I'm not going to take the depression tablets again. I stopped taking it in September and I was fine. And then a lot of highs and lows, a lot of challenges came my way. And to your point, what I always find is I'm always judged very quickly because I think of the outward appearance. And people box me and put me
Yeah,
here
yeah.
until you get to know me. And you're like,
Yeah,
hey, you're just a
that's
normal
right.
human
That's
being.
right.
Right.
And then let's fast track to 2020. COVID happens and I lose my job because of COVID, and I was home for 7 months, Pastor Violet, Pastor Joe. So 7 months at home, and you're asking yourself, like, why, Lord, why? But I'll say it's all possible by God, and God allows things to happen, in my
Yes,
opinion. And I met a beautiful soul. Her name is Leanne Smith. She stays 2 doors away from me. And I bumped into her one morning at the spa, and she said, let's do coffee. Sure, we met for coffee the next day. She says, no, let's do walking. And every day for 7 months of my life, we did walking. We walked, we did a
And
Bible.
That is
so
so
good
important.
therapy.
Yes, very therapeutic.
Excellent.
And she was a good balance at that time, Pastor Violet. She taught me things like, Cindy, everything happens for a reason. And I never understood what Leanne meant. Every day, and I would just look at this big problem that I'm having, and I'm like, all I said to God was, when I lost my job, Lord, I can't go through what I went through
Yeah.
back then. I can't see us lose our house. I can't see us,
Yes.
you know, and that's where Glenn came in, and he was like, I got you. God's got us. And that's how we joined Crystal Church, Pastor Joni.
Okay.
Was obviously during COVID when you guys were going
Yes, that's
online.
right, yeah.
And that fed my soul. Like, it really renewed my hope. And if people were to ask me, did I find myself immediately after Cyril died? I'll say no, I didn't. I think I found myself since I turned 40. So when I turned 40, that was a turning point in my life. My thinking changed. The way I approached life changed. It was almost like, the 40 years in the desert with the Israelites. That's the kind of moment I had. People when they turn 40 either go through a midlife crisis. I think the one thing I did do that was very hectic was I had very long hair, and I cut it shorter than yours, Pastor Violet. I did that in the December 2019. And then obviously I lost my job. And in that 7 months, it really taught me to know who God is. I think God wanted to show me specifically that He's God, and that He will sustain me irrespective and in spite of everything that I may be going through at that particular point in time. But then I talk about the goodness of God from that retrenchment. I started working on the 4th of January 2021. But I got called on the third
So
of
tell us a little bit about what went through your mind, losing your job, and you have a certain lifestyle, and now you have to actually navigate through the challenges that you are faced with, irrespective of the fact that Glenn came to
Yes.
you and said, "Listen,
we got this.
yeah,
Yes.
we've got this."
So for me, Pastor Joan, the thing that did go through my mind was not the lifestyle that we have.
Yeah.
I always say, I think myself and Glenn is always perceived to be the people that live extravagant lives. If anything, we're the most simplistic people. So there was not many fundamental changes that we had to make in terms of our lifestyle. The only thing that, Glenn did say, we're not the family that shops every week or does all these things. Our luxury things was the stuff that we had to tone down a bit on. But Reese also, we had a chat with Reese saying, things are, we don't know when am I going to get a job, so we need to just make do with what we have. But I'll say to you, Pastor John and Pastor Violet, the Lord's provision was more than enough. I mean, thinking in 2020, up and leading, and before I even lost my job, we were on salary cuts. Glenn carried the bond.
Sure.
A full bond. Our cars, he paid. But God provided. I cannot say to you there was a day that we never had anything to eat. Sure. When the Bible says he'll meet all our needs. So help us, God, he did.
Yes.
He did.
That's
And again, in all of that, the 7 months, like, Lord, why me? And I was like saying to God, like, are you really going to make me go through something again like this,
Yeah, because that is the thing that I actually want to get to.
Yeah.
You already
I had this fear.
had experience.
Right. So it's in the subconscious.
So it is somewhere.
Yeah.
It's
Like, I'm
somewhere.
like, God, I can't
Have
go
I
through.
seen this before?
Like, God,
Yeah.
are you
Yeah.
gonna, in my mind,
Am I gonna go through this
Yes.
again?
am I going to lose my house
Yeah.
again? Am I going to lose my car again? Lord, are you going to, you can't let that happen.
Right.
And he didn't. And yes, in all of this, the 7 months of being at home and questioning God, and I question God a lot, guys. It's even now and then I still do, like, why? But then I'm reminded that he works out everything for our good.
For our good.
And what I thought at the time is a bad thing with me losing my job was
That's right.
actually
A good
sure.
thing.
It was a good thing, Pastor Joan, in the sense that since 2020, so say 2021, but the devil tries. And he tries in every form and facet to
Right.
stop me, but he
Yeah.
can't win and he's not going to win.
Yeah.
I was approached by a guy that phoned me, and he works in a fintech company, so financial services. I've never studied that. I've never been in that. I've had travel under my belt for the last 20 years. And he says, I seen your CV on PNet. Would you be interested? And I remember putting the phone on, and I'm like, Lord, I have travel under my belt.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
let's go for this interview.
Yeah.
And I met with the MD at the time. It was Richard Flack, and then Nicole Abrams, who was the last person that interviewed me, and they employed me. And I took that from the word
Sure.
go,
That's
that
so
this is
awesome.
an opportunity.
Without any experience in the financial field.
Yeah.
And God made it possible.
And look at it.
It's all possible
all
because
possible.
of God. And then there's more how God blows my mind there is, I started on the 4th of January, and I'm like, God, I have never studied this before. I've never done it. So you're going to give me the wisdom, the insight, and the knowledge. And I'm going
That's
to own
right.
it.
Yeah.
And I really owned the opportunity. And I upskilled myself by doing research and understanding what this new space is all about. And I had COVID in May. And like really bad. And then I'm at home, I have oxygen, blah, 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 all these long stories. And then I come back from being sick and I have this brainwave. I want to study again. So I go to Nicole and I'm like, Nix, I want to study. I speak to Owen, the HR guy.
Yeah.
He's like, do a motivation. And like within a week, they were like, yes, sure. Send us the documents. And they paid. They paid for 50% of my studies.
Wow.
So that's me. Where I'm saying God has shown up is like the opportunities that He's awarded me despite the hardships that I'd been through. And I thank God for the retrenchment, because if I didn't get retrenched, it would never have stretched me in the
Yes,
manner,
absolutely
in the way
absolutely,
it did.
because new doors opened.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
with that,
while the one door closed,
The other one
the other one
opens.
opens. And I always say, never ever feel down when a door closes, because you don't know
No.
what door will open.
Yes.
Because especially if you're in Christ, especially if you're a child of God, that He looks out for
So
you.
true, eh?
He does.
He makes things work for your good.
all the time.
All the time. And so you have to stand on that promises.
Those are my verses. So
So
Romans
I-
8, verse 28,
Yeah.
and Ephesians 3:20
Yeah.
are my go-to verses.
Yeah, awesome. So how did you change your
Thinking.
You wanted to ask
This
a
question?
No, I was just like triggered by what she said. The fact that the time when she was off from work, that sometimes God allows these things in our lives to shape us.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
would you
true.
say that
Of course, it shaped me, Pastor Violet.
that adverse experience
I
taught
mean,
you something?
If you think of being a widow at the age of 26 and being a mother to an 18-year-old, you're different, right? You see things differently. So, yes, I was different in that season.
Yeah.
Then 2020 happens. And then I turned 40. And then it's a different kind of
Yes,
change.
yes.
It's a different kind of
You're more
molding.
mature.
Yes.
Yes.
And
it's a new wave in your life.
yes, and I mean, and in that 7 months, God was sure as hell sharpening that pencil, because a lot of things was happening, not just in losing my job. I mean, the December before I started, myself and Reese were involved in a car accident, like a really bad one, where we went to hospital in an ambulance. That's how the devil tried. So it shaped me in the way that, not that I've been someone that would never say I appreciate things,
Yeah.
but I have a newfound respect
Right.
for
Right.
people that go through things. Like I have a soft spot for people who genuinely try, because I know I try. I know I try to be better than what I was yesterday. I'm of the notion that you cannot. I think we were chatting a bit to Clayton before the show started. We as children, we grew up a certain way.
Yeah.
And our parents did things a certain way.
Yeah.
And I vowed, that when I become a mother one day, I'm going to say things to Reese that I feel I needed as a
That's
kid.
correct.
Like the affirmation,
Right.
like I love you.
Right.
You can do whatever you put your mind
Yes.
to, and that's my philosophy. So I always look at what I was yesterday, how I can be better today, and I live for today and how God can use me today. So every speed bump, that's what I refer to it now. Before, it was never like that. I always looked at it as this big mountain.
Yeah.
But the speed bump is there for a reason.
Yeah.
It's the why, how, and what am I going to do to move forward.
Right.
Is we don't fail backwards, we fall
Forward.
forward.
Yeah.
And for me, that's important. And I think me losing my job has definitely shaped me. It shaped me in the sense that I have not that I took things for granted, but I give like I'm giving to God. I work like I'm working for the Lord, like I'm pleasing God when I'm finished at the end of the day.
Did you go through therapy?
Yes, I did. I
Yeah,
did.
And how did you find it? Did it work? Because there's a lot of people who's against therapy. A lot of people is in a situation that they don't feel the need,
Yeah.
to seek counsel.
Right.
Pastor Joan, I'm coming back to last year. I got sick again. So I went into hospital again. And I was there for not long as the last time, but maybe 3 weeks max, 3.5 weeks. And again, it was depression, it was anxiety. But the main thing that catapulted me into that space again was the fact that I had burnout. So I basically was burning the
Can
candle
identify
on
with
both
that.
angles.
My goodness.
Wanting,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're anything like me, Pastor Joan, we're somewhat like perfectionists. And I want to do things myself. And God stopped it again. So I was brought back to a halt again. And this time round in the therapy sessions there, I was more open. I was more true to Cindy.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
Cindy is now saying, you know what, guys, but
Right.
Yeah.
now I can articulate what I like and what I don't like. Things I could never do.
You have
Even though,
boundaries in
now
place.
I've got boundaries now. And people are like frowning upon me because now I'm saying
Yeah,
no.
and you don't actually. It doesn't
And like
work.
now, it's like, you know what, whatever blows your hair back, but this doesn't make me comfortable
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
I can safely say I'm done pleasing people, because that was one of
right.
my biggest things growing up. I would always seek the validation of other people, which would then, if someone maybe didn't greet me in a specific way, I would feel offended, like, what did I do
Right,
wrong?
right,
Always thinking like, it's
right.
like I did something wrong.
Right.
But in the last couple of years, I realized that it's not necessarily me. You know, people also go through things.
Yes.
And I've got to be respectful of that person's space, where they're at, and what they're going through at the end of the
Beautiful.
day.
You know what? When I was working, I also suffered from depression. And one thing I realized is that people judge you.
Oh, yes.
People they label you as
Really?
weak.
They do.
As
They do.
weak when you suffer from depression.
Yes, and I think it's frowned upon.
Yes. Because some people will just say, you
Shake it off. Shake it
regret."
off.
Yeah,
You
just
can't.
shake it off. I can't understand why you have to go and see a doctor or a therapist. You must just pull yourself together. And that is not the case. I'm sure you are a living testimony here. And
Pastor
also the
Violet.
fact that it reoccurs.
Yes.
I just want some of the listeners to
To know.
know
It does
that
happen.
It does
But how
happen.
does it- how
Ons
does
is
it-
mos by
how
die
does it
lewe by die
reoccur?
wêreld.
You know,
It triggers.
Is
There's
it
triggers.
you?
It's
There's triggers.
It's
So-
triggers. It's stuff
Right.
that triggers you.
Right.
And then you find yourself going back into almost like a cycle.
Yes.
So it's something that you have to accept and deal with it.
it.
And that's why I am so big on identifying what I'm feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
So when I feel something is not okay with me, I want to unpack it in my head.
right. Why?
And why am I feeling this
Right.
way? Because if you don't do that, you
Go-
you go back
Myself and
back
Glenn
to
was,
the depression.
myself and Glenn was having a chat in the week, or a few nights ago, and I was saying to him, you know, people shouldn't be so cavalier about having depression, because
Yeah.
this thing is real.
It's real.
And when it gets you guys, and I tried to explain to him, I said, you know, when you're in that space, there's nothing and no one
Yeah.
can get you out. You're so low that
Yes.
it's like, I mean, I think
Only God can get
Only
you out.
God can
then.
get you out
only,
of that.
only God. I mean,
Yes.
I think why I ended up going back to hospital was it was a Wednesday, and he was at work, and I reached a point at that particular time, like, you know what, I'm done now. I'm ready to end my life. That's how I felt. And he was at work, and he panicked. He phoned my parents, and yes, it was a journey. But this time, in being at the wellness clinic this time around, I was able to say, okay, this is one of my triggers. I was able to identify it. In the past, I didn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't self-aware of who I
Right.
am
Yes.
and what it is that upsets me. So a thing that I don't do well to is silent treatment.
Yeah.
So that is a big trigger for me. If we have a disagreement, talk to me. Tell me. This is how I feel.
Do you see
When-
it as rejection?
I
or-
do see it as rejections. I will say this and share that I suffered a lot of rejection my entire life growing up. I was and it's not a nice feeling. So things that people do, like the silent treatment is a form of rejection for me. And people look at Cindy as she is and think, sure, this is a woman that is self-confident. I am only but in the recent years building my confidence. My husband believes more in me than I believe in myself.
Wow. Cindy, would you say that your outward appearance is a form of a coping mechanism for
Yes.
you? Because I've gone through that too.
Yes. So
That you try to keep the
thing perfect.
something that you have control over.
outward,
The
yeah.
outward.
So in our
You keep that
therapy, so in our therapy
impeccable.
session in one of the classes last year, it was a whiteboard, and they were saying like, how do you see depression? You know, some people scribbled things, and some people drew straight things. I said, I'm the straight. So like, before I got sick, even last year, people look at me and say, but there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
Because I internalize everything. So
Right.
everything is behind this
Yes,
was
yeah,
that.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
outward.
Was
yeah.
the outward was always
Yeah. It's what's happening in
on
the
the
core,
inside,
On the
yeah.
inside.
that was always
That's why I
the
always say deal with that
Yeah.
inner person.
yes.
Right.
And I can
So
honestly say the
important.
inner person today is not a people pleaser.
Yeah.
The inner person today now knows what she wants and doesn't want. And in the fact that I'm now able to articulate it and say to Glenn, this doesn't make me happy anymore.
Right.
Before I couldn't.
Yeah.
I think because my parents were so
Yeah,
strict.
because you internalized everything.
I
So
did.
everything went to the mind.
Yes.
In the subconscious.
But-
you stored it. You stored it.
Yes.
And then now and then it triggers and it comes to the fore.
Absolutely.
And it's so real.
Yeah.
It's so real.
You know, she mentioned something earlier on as well, I think before the show, that the way we were raised, Joan, is
Yes.
to keep quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
We were
We were
raised.
raised
We
never
were
to speak
raised.
back.
We never
Guys,
had to.
I
have,
identify fully with that.
That's me.
my dad used to say, "JT a wil nie.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
have a will of your own."
Yeah.
So
Listen,
your
we were
opinion.
so many children, you
Yeah,
know,
it
that
didn't matter.
you didn't want to actually tell your parents the way you feel.
Yeah,
You, you don't. I was that type of child. I was very on my own.
And I will say this, it's biting me in the bum in certain areas in my life where I'm unable to speak up for myself.
Yeah.
Because I grew up, my parents are good people. My mother was a very strict individual. So my mother was just very, very, very strict in the sense that even when I met Glenn, it was hard for him to understand, why don't you have friends? My mother has sisters, and her children or their children are also girls, and we're like a year or two apart, and those were my friends.
Okay.
So I can't say.
Yes, no net soos ons, right?
Yes.
Jay?
Well, like I don't have friends. Like my cousins are my friends, right, Pastor? So,
Yeah, yeah,
so that's what the last few years has taught me. Yes, when I am negative or when I am going into that where I'm feeling, today I'm having a bad day.
Yeah.
What are my triggers? How do I identify what's causing it?
Right.
And then address it at that point in time.
Yeah.
Like I can honestly say silent treatment doesn't sit well with me.
Yes.
I'm a
You would rather want people to come to you.
You'd rather say to me, you know,
Yeah.
I'm also like that. Huh?
rather just say to me, not Cindy.
I don't like you to keep quiet.
Or you
Tell me, man, come to
Yes,
me. I'm mature enough to understand.
understand. And I mean, I don't believe I'm not someone that can't reason. Just say to me, not, I didn't like what you did here. Cool. Then I know for next time that
Don't do it,
Don't do
yes.
it. Then we move on. And I'm that person. I can't be cross for
Grudges,
days
yeah,
and
that's-
days. That's
that's
not me.
me.
And it's and people would perceive it as, oh, you're being pretentious. No,
Yeah.
it's because of the grace of God in me. That if someone's hurt me, God shows me grace every morning, every day, every minute. So I'm going to give the grace back.
Yeah.
Right, can I go to all the people online?
sure.
Yes, everyone.
Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We really do appreciate you online. So Felicia Stevens says, good morning, gorgeous ladies. Cindy Swart says, I remember seeing you since. I've never seen anyone look more shocked. You were like a shadow that time. But babe, look at God.
Amen. Definitely look at
it's
God.
all
God.
possible, right?
Yes.
With God.
Yes.
Alison Moulton says, good morning, ladies. Henriette and Aplon, that is Auntie
Auntie
Heather.
Heather.
Oh my goodness, I forgot to join Cindy. And then she says, I'm here, yeah. Thank you so much, Heather. Bernice Boyson says, good morning, beautiful ladies. And then Auntie Heather says, good morning. And then Michelin Peterson, this is one of our favorite people online.
Yes.
You know, she's so faithful. She's
daughter.
yeah.
Yes, she's a lovely person.
They, she and her mother,
Yes,
they
yes.
our faithful
Watches.
tuners.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so Micheline says, good morning, Pastor Joan, Pastor V, and a special good morning to the beautiful Cindy. Felicia Stevens says, your story is so beautiful, Cindy. Brought tears to my eyes. Only God can turn situations
Definitely.
around. Heather says, amazing God who knows our end from the beginning.
Thank you.
He mold us accordingly.
Amen.
Morning, Pastor Eileen. Good morning, beautiful pastors. Good morning, Cindy. Praise God that you could do your testimony for people that's going through the
Yes.
similar situation. May you be blessed.
Amen.
And then Marvin Matthews says, good morning, ladies. Thanks for the topic and sharing your experience. Can you experience depression without identifying it?
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
You can. You can
can
have
actually.
You can.
Yeah,
You can.
especially the way you feel.
internal,
Yeah,
yes.
internally. Yeah. Lady J says, since you're such a phenomenal, amazing woman. And then Heather says, yes, Marvin, at that time, don't know what's happening with you, but God.
Yes.
Yeah. And I can actually also say, yes, you can.
Yes.
You can actually withdraw.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
my thing.
Yeah.
I go very silent.
Yeah.
I go into a hole
Yeah.
when I'm going through the
Yeah.
notions.
Yeah.
And I mean, I will say, I think the first time round when I got sick, it was very hard for Glenn because they've never experienced having someone that has depression.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate it? And now I've learned to speak up. When I'm feeling down, I tell him, listen, I'm feeling like this. And I try, before even getting sick last
That's
year,
very mature, eh?
I tell
it's
him.
a good
Actually,
thing.
because
I do say to him.
you before you couldn't.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
And that is all
And
because
see-
of God.
And see how the Lord carried you through and helped you through
Yes,
that
Pastor John.
journey.
Yes.
You know that now you can actually say
Verbalize
no.
it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
it's very
identify.
difficult, eh?
Yeah,
It is.
It's very difficult because in the beginning you don't really know how the person's going to take it and handle it.
Yes.
You know, and you don't really want people to like
Yes.
But it's important.
shunt you or like put you aside,
in a box.
Yes.
You know?
But it's important
It's
for
very
us to be
important.
vulnerable with our spouses.
Indefinitely.
Yeah.
Even, because
I
that
think
is
that's
what-
where it starts.
Yes. Like someone said the other day, you must be so vulnerable with your spouse that you must even be able to say, look, ek voel, like I'm open to temptation. Did you know
Yes,
that?
Yes. You shouldn't be holding
And vice
information.
versa, your husband should be able to say to you,
Yes.
I'm feeling vulnerable,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the attention of somebody else.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you
That's
understand
right.
what I'm trying
That's
to say?
right.
Because you're not giving me the attention that I need.
For sure,
Right.
Pastor John. Pastor
Yeah,
John.
I say, maar ek mis jou mos.
Yes.
Yeah,
I say the
Ja,
same
ek
thing.
mis jou.
Ja.
Ek mis jou,
Ja.
kom nou, want jy weet,
Right.
sometimes
Life gets
because
busy.
it gets busy, man, and especially our husbands, and we have to really salute them for actually
Yes.
trying their utmost best
Exactly.
to keep the lights on.
Yes.
And that's what I
That's
say to
so
Glenn.
that
And I
way.
mean, if I look at when God says He will restore.
Yeah.
If I look 17 years back and I look down this road,
Yay.
I see the goodness of God in
Yes.
every situation that I'd gone through as an individual. And raising Reese for the first 6 years of his life wasn't easy because I was mother, father.
Yeah.
It was everything
Yeah.
to Reese. And now I've got a helpmate, and that's Glenn, right? And that's only possible because of God.
Right.
I am so grateful for this opportunity, and it's only possible because of God. I should have. I always say to Glenn, if I think of what had happened to me, the trauma I experienced 17 years ago at the tender age of 26, I could easily have gone to drugs. I could have just not cared.
That's true.
But God knew why Reese had to be born the time he was born. Remember, he was a premature baby.
Yeah.
That kept you grounded.
Sure. And Reese, if you had asked me maybe 4 years ago, what is my why? I'd say to you, Reese, like everything I do, every decision I make is centered around him, because at the end of the day, I would like to leave a legacy for him.
Right.
I would want him to say, or his
Right,
children
I'm
must
with
say,
you.
my Oma Cindy
Right.
was formidable. She was
Yeah.
strong. She was tenacious. She pushed through.
Yes.
And yes, life is hard. It's not easy.
No, it's not. Eh?
And you've got to navigate it with the help of God. I mean, I think where I am today is, if I didn't know God, I think I would have most probably fallen off the beaten track. I mean, yes.
So sometimes, Cindy, to break your word, sometimes in life, because of the past and because of the journey that you actually traveled, so there are certain things that pops up again, the negatives that you see, and especially people reminding you of who you are, and people showing you actually jy wil jou beter hou. So I'm talking reality.
That's
yeah.
true,
I'm
Pastor.
talking reality.
Yeah.
But you forget where you're from. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
So you hear all these things. How do you change the negatives into the positives? Due to the fact that we find a lot of negatives
Yes.
out there.
So if I look at my past, I know I'm not my past. I know I'm not that widow anymore. I know I'm not what I was 17 years ago. So where I choose, so this is a choice I've made, where I have literally unsubscribed to the negativity. So there's individuals in our spaces, family members, that add to the negativity, that would want to remind you of the
And
hurt
especially
you.
family,
Yes.
right?
So all I do is I basically just not stay away, but I actively say, I will deal with you in this way. I will see you when I need to see you. So I'm not going to subject myself to the negativity anymore. So before, I was the people pleaser, so I can be dying inside, Pastor Joan,
Yeah.
and I would go
Yeah,
to certain
yeah.
places just
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I needed to keep the people happy.
That's
Now
right.
I'm like, I'm done.
You
I'm
set
not-
your boundaries and that's it.
And that's how I personally, not that I'm not dealing with the negativity, but if I see a situation going in that route, I choose not to partake in it, not to associate myself with it, because I need to protect my peace.
That's
My
right.
peace is my home, it's my Reese, it's my husband. And I think that is how God would want it. I can't want to, who say means charity begins at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't want to be cleaning elsewhere when it must be, you must clean at your own front door. So for me, as long as Glenn, Cindy, Reese is content and we happy,
right.
and that's in perfect order.
Yeah.
Whoever comes to
Yeah.
disturb that peace, trust me, I'm going to let you know. You disturbing my peace, I'm not
Right.
going to do this anymore.
Right.
And I mean, and there's family members that I've literally just kept to the side. Not that I don't love you, I just, when I see you, I see you. And if we are together, I've made it known that we talk this and we don't go in this direction.
That's correct.
And when
Yeah.
we start going in that direction, I change the
Yes, yes,
topic
yes.
Wow.
so
Yes.
that I'm not taken back into
That's
that.
correct. Yes.
Because there's a renewing of my mind. So in
Right.
order to keep my mind renewed,
Right.
I've got to stay with the people that's going to help me stay
Yes,
on that path.
yes.
Very, very important what you're saying.
Vital.
Because I've realized even in a second marriage, in a blended family, most of the time, the conflict is not between my husband and myself.
Yes.
But it's the outward, it comes from the outside,
Yes.
from my side, from his side, the children and stuff like that. So that's why I admire the fact that you could recognize that you need to
There's boundaries.
set boundaries.
I mean, and
Yeah.
For the sake of
very
peace, your
important.
own
That's what I do.
I
peace
preach that,
of
right?
mind.
I
Yes.
say it to everybody.
I mean, even at our
First your immediate family,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
the rest.
rest.
Right.
Charity begins there. So
Yeah.
it in my mind, it is God, Glenn, Cindy, Reese, and the rest.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
And even at our couples retreat, we had a segment and we spoke about blended families. And for me, Pastor Violet, I don't believe blended families is just with children. Remember, I'm Cindy-Lee
That's
Markham.
everybody.
So I'm used to be Cindy-Lee Calvert.
That's correct.
And he's Glenn Emmanuel
Ja,
Markham.
100%.
So ek kom met die Calvert
Dis waar.
blendedness, and he comes with the Markham.
Yes.
So that's a blended family,
That's right.
and navigating that is just as
That's
hard.
very right.
And
That's
it's how-
so true.
how
With
we
the
as-
in-laws, that's very
How
good.
we as the husband and wife need to navigate that
Yeah.
even. How do we put the boundary? And it's so difficult to put a boundary in place, especially when the family is concerned,
Yeah.
because we don't want to offend anybody. But I think where I can safely say for myself, I'm at a point where I know what I want now. And I'm not going to subscribe to that anymore. And I think even Glenn's a bit shocked because the other day he said to me, you're very cheeky. I'm like, I'm not cheeky. I'm just saying
Assertive.
yes, I don't like certain
Speaking up
things,
for yourself.
which is something I struggled with my whole life,
Yeah.
Pastor Violet, where I never had a voice, and things would be internal, happening and I'm not saying anything, but now I can. So that for me is the transformation that has happened since I turned 40, and since I lost my job, and how God has just been there, bringing the right people at the right moment. Every season there is people that is there to mold me and shape me into the person I need to be.
That's right.
On that one,
That's
Cindy,
beautiful, no?
I was just reading here. It says, it took me quite a long time to develop a voice. And now that I have it, I am not going to be silent.
Yes.
I think that's what you're saying now.
Yes.
You
Yes.
have your voice back.
Yes.
And don't be silent.
Yes.
Don't be quiet when you have to speak up.
Yes. And I understand,
Because, depression, a part of depression, I think I've mentioned it before, is inward aggression.
Yes.
It's the fact that we hold things, we keep things to ourselves.
And we never speak up.
And we never speak up for ourselves.
We never say
so
to
we're
the
actually
person.
angry at ourselves
and
for
I mean,
not speaking
and
up.
And it makes you ugly.
Yeah.
It definitely makes you
It
ugly.
does.
It
It
makes you
does.
such a person that you actually not.
Yeah.
Because you don't deal with what is bothering you.
Yes.
And when you harbor those things within you, you
Yeah.
become ugly.
it made me sick. I literally was unwell
Your
in my
body
body.
can't handle
Yes.
it.
So all this built up, I wouldn't say mine was anger. It was just more a case of I could never fathom certain things. Like I could never wrap my head around it. Like, why? Why would you do this?
The
and
whys
I'm this.
in life,
Yeah,
the
you know, like
whys.
why
did this happen? Yeah.
But I believe God's given me the opportunity. I know Reese doesn't belong to me. He comes through me from God. And God has said to me, Cindy, I think you're worthy of being his mom.
That's right.
So I don't take it lightly. So whatever I do so I speak life into him. They'll tell you, I never call him names. I never say anything derogatory concerning him. I never speak negative. I always say things that will edify him. I do not use profane language to him. I always ensure that what I'm speaking, you will know that my mother cares. My mother loves.
Awesome.
Without a shadow of a doubt. That is
Wonderful.
how I operate with both of them. And I think the only thing that I bring from 17 years ago into our home now is when you leave home, you tell me you got there safe. That is a non-negotiable for a Reese, for Glenn, for myself. Even when I get to work, I say I'm here, and because it's just, if I go back to that day 17 years ago, they left. I took for granted they're coming home. And when I phoned,
that's right.
when I phoned to find out where they were, I phoned and I was told by 1011 that they died and they were in an accident. So,
man.
yes, that's how I found out, Pastor Jones. It was never someone coming to tell me. They were dead for 7 hours before I even found out. So that's the only thing that I'll say, that I bring back, that I say. Can you just tell me when you arrived? If you don't, it's not that I panic. It's just I want to know.
Yeah, that's important.
That you are okay, because I know that was something that I took for granted.
I always want to send a message to
Yes,
someone.
I've arrived.
If I leave
Yeah.
my sister's place and I arrive at home, if I don't send, she will ask, are you
Sonia's
safe?
good with that, eh?
I do with Sonia the same.
She's very
When I
good
met Sonia, I always used to say, just send me a WhatsApp to say you're at home.
And Glenn
Or
helps
I will
me.
send her and say,
It's
with you too.
Yeah.
I just want to know, are you safe?
Yes.
And you spoke about what is the negatives that I can overcome. Like I can say for free, I parent sometimes from a place of fear when it comes to Reese, only because of what happened. I mean, now he's 19. He has a car. So I would say no to many things because can you relate to what?
Yeah.
Then Glenn is the balance.
Yeah.
Then Glenn is like,
Voice of reason.
like no,
You
he
have
can.
to leave him,
And that's what I'm saying. So those are just some of the negatives that I have to actively say, no, I can trust God. I think you said to me earlier, it was last year, in this year, you said I needed to anoint Reese that one Sunday. And he wasn't actually, I think it was New Year's Eve, and I forgot. Pastor Violet, I forgot. And the following Sunday, he took his car and he went to his friends, and they were going to get sushi. And on their way to the sushi place, the friend ended up in a car accident. But when Reese called, that fear in his voice, he was like, Ma, Niaz was in an accident. The car was spinning in the air, and. And you said something that Sunday, and I vowed I will never, ever take those things lightly. I will do when I'm told.
Yes, very true.
And I'm just saying that, 2 incidences. The Christmas Eve, a friend of his also passed away in a car accident. Then that, you said I must pray, I must anoint. Then the following Sunday, Reese. Not him, but that's God's grace. So those are the things that I've got to actively say, God is in control, God will, because I'm that parent. If I had my way, Reese won't drive a car, you won't go
every
anywhere.
morning you cover him,
Yes.
Yeah.
So
because we have the protection of Jesus Christ within us.
definitely.
So yes, beloveds, believe it or not, we
We
came
have.
to
Wow.
the end of our show, and I can listen to you actually, all the time. And that is why I just gave you the opportunity just to speak,
Thanks,
because
Pastor
there are so many others out there, young women, who's maybe in the same situation and thinking, how am I going to make it? There are people that is actually, on the verge of, do I stay in this negativity? Do I
Right.
move
Toxic
on?
relationships,
You know,
yeah.
do I stay in a toxic relationship? Do I move further? You know what I'm saying? And a lot of those things that you spoke today, it's all possible.
Yeah.
Amen.
It's all possible for you to make it.
Yes, you
You
can.
know, you can make it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you have to put your mind
Right.
to it. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to say to yourself that I can accomplish.
Right.
Yes.
I will make it.
Take the limit
You
off
know,
yourself.
yeah, take it off.
Take the
Take
limits
it
off
off
yourself.
and go if there's therapy needed. Go
Yeah.
for
Go
it.
for it. There's
Be
nothing wrong.
open. Be open for change in your personal life.
Definitely.
Because it's only you who can bring the change. Your parents can't.
Your pastor
can't. Nobody else can. Your partner can't. You know, because a lot of us seek for validation in our partners,
Which is wrong.
which is not the right thing
not
to
healthy.
do. You have to seek validation in the great I am and in the one that is living in this body every day.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that is my sixpence for everyone. So I know there's a few that says, like Janita Edwards, that's online, so difficult to identify and express. And then Auntie Heather says, it's growing in grace. Thank you.
Yes.
And then Eileen says, Cindy, we're praying God's grace over you always.
Thank you.
Janita say, thank God for Glenn. Yeah, no, thank God. Hey, thank God. Thank God for many husbands,
Yes.
guys.
Yes.
And then Janita says, oh, you have transformed gracefully. Michelin says, thank you for sharing so powerful today, Cindy. Your testimony is such an encouragement. Lady J says, wow, Sins, you're speaking such truth. Thanks so much. And then Melissa Valhassa says, good morning, pastors and Sins. I almost missed this. So glad I remembered. I am the same, Sins. I cannot stand silent treatment. Then Cindy Swat says, what a lovely chat. Thanks, girls. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you. Quickly, last comments because we're over our time. Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to salute all the resilient women out there, strong women that's going through the most. And I also want to thank you, Cindy, from the bottom of my heart for sharing your beautiful story
Thanks, Pastor Violet.
of how God just brought you through. And like I said, you don't even smell like smoke.
Yeah,
You
that's
just-
a fact.
You went through the
Don't
fire.
even look like
You
smoke.
don't look like smoke.
And that's God's
That's
grace.
only God's grace. So I want to say, Oprah says, Winfrey says, life is about finding yourself, embracing your strengths and weaknesses, and being true to who you are.
Amen.
I emphasize the weaknesses because
Yes,
that doesn't
yes.
define you.
Who
That
you
doesn't
are.
define who you are.
You can make the weaknesses
can-
also strengths.
Absolutely. So, yeah, go in the peace of the Lord.
And to our ladies, I just want to say that, yes, life is not easy. But if you submit it to God and you start there first, like God, you take control of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And identifying what is in your control, I think
Yeah.
will help you. And find someone who's your person,
That's
even
right.
someone who you can leverage off, that
Right.
you can bounce off. There's
Yes.
many people that I've met within Crystal Church. I mean, Lorna constantly prays for me, with me.
Yes.
There's Delphine
That's
Peterson that's
wonderful.
come into
Right.
our into the Love Link. That is, just associating yourself with the right
Yes.
women
Right.
that has the right thinking. I think
Yes.
catapults you into your next
Yes.
step and to the
That's
next dimension you
awesome.
need to go to. I mean, there was a lot of changing that I needed to do, a lot of
Yeah.
introspection
That's
and
right.
dying to old self and letting God be God.
Yes.
And if anything, I'm a living testimony that God is able to do anything and everything at the right
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
And just embrace each day with God. And yeah, lots of love to everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And I hope that this will be nothing but a blessed day for you guys.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you.
Yes. So dress up and show up.
Amen.
Yes.
Because it is all possible.
Amen.
We love you. God loves you best. Go in the peace of the Lord. Mwah.
Bye.
In the shadows. As I look upon my life. In the shadows. There's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dream. As I look upon my life. In the shadows. There's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dream.